In March of last year, President Donald Trump signed an executive order that stripped collective bargaining rights from federal employees across dozens of agencies, including over 1,000 employees here in Parkersburg. Our Chase Campbell talked with a local union leader about how that order is still affecting workers today.
President Donald Trump signed Executive Order 14251 in March of last year. The order invoked a national security provision of the 1978 Civil Service Reform Act to strip collective bargaining rights from workers at more than 40 federal agencies, including the Bureau of the Fiscal Service. Over the last year, the order has been litigated in federal court. A district court judge initially blocked it, but an appeals court panel lifted that injunction. The order remains in effect as the case moves through the courts. Local union steward Eric Engel says the impact on the over 1,000 local workers once protected by the National Treasury Employees Union has been devastating.
It's really having a negative impact on so many federal employees' lives because all sorts of different things that used to have to be bargained under the rules of the negotiated master labor agreement, now they don't have to be.
The union office was shuttered and cleared out. The union grievance process was frozen, leaving workers to rely on the grievance process for non-union employees, which Engel says lacks the teeth of the union process.
It's handled differently than a union grievance. It really just doesn't have that same effect. You don't have a union representative, backing you. It's really all on the shoulders of the employees to pursue an administrative grievance, and then, decisions are final and binding.
Payroll dues collection was also cut off, though the union developed an alternative system to collect dues. Workers also lost telework rights and alternative work schedules. Engel emphasizes that these benefits, like collective bargaining rights, were once guaranteed by federal law.
We're seeing law after law, statute after statute being violated by this president, by the Office of Personnel Management, by the Office of Management and Budget.
Union officials like Engel are also unable to respond to employee concerns while on the clock.
We can't even go meet with someone who wants little advice from the union if we're on the clock.
Due to these changes, Engel says many workers have taken deferred resignations or early retirements or left the BFS for employment elsewhere.
These were the best jobs, arguably the best jobs in the Mid-Ohio Valley for decades. I certainly felt that way when I got mine 12 years ago. And that I can honestly say is not the case anymore. And that's very devastating.
In February, the Bureau of the Fiscal Service said it was terminating its collective bargaining agreement with the NTEU. That move has been challenged by the union's national president, who said the termination was unlawful. The case remains pending in federal court. The Department of the Treasury, of which the Bureau of the Fiscal Service is a part, did not respond to a request for comment on the case. In Parkersburg, Chase Campbell, WTAP News.